economic and future development, adopting a FOSS-based ecosystem. So, having worked in Pakistan, I was running a company called Ping Systems, और मुझे डायरेक्ट एक्सपीरियंस है, तो मैं बहुत स्ट्रांगली फील करता हूँ कि अगर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान एट गवर्नमेंट लेवल फॉस को अडॉप्ट करे और एक हम इकोसिस्टम बनाएं, जिसका फवाद ने कुछ जिक्र किया, मैं भी I'll point to that. So I think we are moving towards a brighter and very prosperous future, inshallah, for the country. Quick note about myself. वैसे तो सारा आपने बता ही दिया, मैं जस्ट इंक्लूड करूंगा कि आई वाज रनिंग दिस आईटी कंपनी, जो हम लोग बेसिकली सर्विस प्रोवाइडर थे. वी वुड चार्ज nothing for the software because it was open source, but we were charging for the maintenance, support, and configuration and installation. और some of the clients list माशाल्लाह बड़ी थी, लेकिन मैंने कुछ हाईलाइट किया है. तो you can see top companies were adopting, और ये बात है तकरीबन 10 से 15 साल पहले की. So I'm positive कि अब तो we would have moved much further down this path. तो FOSS हम जिक्र करते हैं, free and open source software. What does it exactly mean? The basic idea is कि जो source code है वो उसकी कोई ownership नहीं है. जो उसका author है या एक टीम है जिन्होंने वो सॉफ्टवेयर लिखा, उसके बाद उन्होंने ओपन सोर्स कर दिया. और इसकी जो की एक जो इसकी ब्यूटी है वो ये है कि if I take that code and I make a change, I modify it, I am bound to return it back to the community. तो over time वो develop हो जाता है into क्योंकि ये evolution है, it becomes a very good piece of software, very good piece of code. और इसका सबसे बड़ा जो clear outstanding example है, that is Linux, जो Linus Torvalds ने start की थी as a 21-year-old student in Helsinki. वो उसका clear example है कि उसने उसको इंटरनेट पे शेयर किया, और आज वो it's like a billion dollar, multi-billion dollar industry. और आपको पता है कि Linux जो है, from the smallest of microchips to the biggest of supercomputer, they're all running Linux. It's amazing. So that's the power of open source. There are some different licenses. I won't go into the detail, but just a new GPL version 2 Apache license. These are some of the popular ones in this FOSS environment. तो let's take a look at some of the common FOSS models. और जैसे मैंने जिक्र किया, जो मेरी कंपनी थी Ping Systems, वो थी first model में, which is service and support. So we would approach a customer or a client and उनको हम deploy करके देते थे और maintain करते थे. हमारे पास कोई IP नहीं था, कोई intellectual हम property own नहीं करते थे. We were just providing a service. But that was, I would consider that was the first step to supporting and promoting FOSS. Second model is an open source distributor. So you're distributing that component. You don't own necessarily the core IP. And the last level is single vendor open source firms, which I have a slide on that, which are providing a traditional software product to enterprises, and it's open source, and they own at least some parts of the IP. And these two models, the two ones that I discussed, they can attract venture capital. So overall, what are some of the high-level advantages for FOSS? It lowers cost for overall society. It increases innovation and knowledge and collaboration. It is very easy to share and reuse. There's a transparency built in because the source code is open. Anyone can see it, anyone can make changes to it. So there's that inherent transparency built into it. It can be inspected anytime for security issues. You get that vendor independence, and you can create an environment of interoperable systems. There was a question earlier on about moving from SAP and Oracle. So SAP, I'm not sure about, because it's a very complicated system. But Oracle, certainly there are many options. One of them is Postgres, which is a fully fledged RDBMS, which can, uh, it's very equivalent to Oracle. So there is, for organizations, there is a way to move over from Oracle. And FOSS also creates an environment of interoperable systems. So if you know a little history about Unix, which is also open source now, they create these small modules which talk to each other, and then overall the environment is able to work very well, because all of those small pieces are able to communicate with each other. So we talked about it being secure, and the security comes from the open source nature, which is that so many eyes are looking at that source code that any bugs are quickly identified and fixed. There's a way to do higher customization of that code, and it provides more security and better privacy. And we've seen in recent history, I've given a couple of attacks like NotPetya and WannaCry, that have caused billions of dollars across the world in financial and data loss, and both of these exploited Windows vulnerabilities. So this does add to the fact that going open source will be helpful in securing our infrastructure as well. So what are some of the open source domains? Again, this is not an exhaustive list. And basically, today, open source touches each and every domain. I've just listed some of the ones that are of high interest. As an example, open data. So government, health, population, financial data sets, hundreds of different data sets are available and open for public use. Open source believes strongly in open data formats, so XML, JSON, Open Document, Apache Parquet. These are all formats that are acceptable and shareable between different systems. In the energy sector, in the manufacturing sector, automotive, I just learned a new one today. Fawad mentioned called it was called Mowit or something similar to that. So it's touching each and every domain. In the IoT, it's becoming one of the leading operating systems by switching over to FOSS. Security is very strong area, very strong domain. In the data center, you have like clusters, create a data center like Mesos, Kubernetes, OpenStack, SolStack. In the fintech, you have blockchain. We hear about Bitcoin, but the underlying technology, blockchain, it's open source. It's free. Ethereum. In the educational sector, you have Moodle, Sakai, LaTeX. All of these have been open source for years now. In the military and defense areas, you have MQTT, HiveMQ for secure messaging. In the open source product areas, again, there are many, but I'm just highlighting some of the more popular products that are available there. If we talk about databases, so MySQL, MariaDB, and Postgres, these are very equivalent to Oracle. These are very high performant RDBMS. And then you have others that are made mostly for the big data and cloud, like Redis and Cassandra. They're all open source, very, very high performance. Cloud tools, you have OpenStack, Docker, the data center operating system, DCOS, OpenShift, Cloudify, Vagrant. All of these are, again, open source, free to use. In the productivity, so on the desktop level, you have OpenOffice. I heard Drupal, which is also used by the US government for web hosting. LibreOffice, SendMail, as a like Zati example. Whenever I buy a computer over there or even in Canada, I never purchase Microsoft Office. I download either OpenOffice or LibreOffice. This presentation you see, it's been made on OpenOffice as an example. In the security monitoring, it's a very strong area. You have many different products. In the AI ML, so um, you can see I've listed TensorFlow, PyCaret, PyTorch, MLflow. These are again all open source, free to use. Acha, just a very interesting point here. This software I mentioned, PyCaret, it's the author is Moise. He's from Karachi, Karachi University, and he's here in Canada. And this is one of the leading machine learning software you can get there. It's available free of cost, and he's written by Pakistani. So something it's very मतलब फखर की बात है. Please do spread this message. In the DevOps area, you have Terraform, Chef, Puppet. All of these are open source. They're available for download. All you need is to learn that technology. In the development area, so Python, I'm a heavy Python user. You have R, Scala, Go, C, JavaScript, Jupyter notebooks, Raspberry Pi. These are all tools that are available. We just need to download them and start using them. I talked briefly about data center. If you've heard of Kubernetes, that is being open sourced by Google, and it is the leading software there to be used in the data center for managing clouds. It's amazing software. Then VirtualBox, open source by Oracle, similar to VMware. You have Grafana, Mesos. These are the leading products that are open source and available. The stacks. Tahir briefly mentioned about PSEP, and I will थोड़ा मैं यहाँ time लगाता हूँ. It was a great project by PSEP, and we had source. We went to 4 major cities: Lahore, Peshawar, Karachi, and Islamabad. We traveled there. We set up the labs, and we were providing them. I think it was a weekday course. So it was LAMP, which is the Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP at that time. Now P can stand for Perl or Python, but in those days it was the LAMP stack, completely open source, and I'm really proud to be part of that project. Great project. We taught about 400 plus students across Pakistan. When we talk about graphical design, you have GIMP, PORE, POV Ray, Krita, Blender, etc. Again, enterprise class. What are some of the FOSS success stories? Some that we use them on a daily basis. HTML, internet. अगर आज इंटरनेट नहीं होता, DARPA open source नहीं करता, तो I think it would be a different world for sure. So these are the success stories that nobody even knows about or talks about. Google is open source. I can search for free. The GNU Linux I talked about. This is the flag bearer of open source. By Linus Torvalds. You have PGP. It's encryption standard. The C language, it was open sourced by Dennis Ritchie in the way back in the 70s. It's still the code that needs to run and be flexible. That's still written in C. It's still the best language there. SendMail, Android. Each one of us have a phone that is probably running Android, and there are so many more. It'll just fill up hundreds of slides. So what are some of the FOSS organizations? So you have the FSF, which is the founding of FOSS with GNU and Richard Stallman, and the objective is to promote the universal freedom to study, distribute, create, and modify computer software. Apache Foundation, amazing work they're doing. If you go to their website, they have hundreds of projects, and these projects are enterprise class. Apache Web Server, as an example, It's used by, I think, over 70% of all websites in the world. OSI, you have the Linux Foundation. This is the primary foundation जो Linux को support कर रही है. We have Quali, which is focused on educational. You have the Eclipse Foundation. Most of their tools are for innovation and collaboration. New Health, IEEE, ACM. Just like to mention here that IEEE or ACM FOSS organization नहीं है. Rather, they create and promote standards in engineering and computers. As an example, आपका Ethernet है या आपका Wi-Fi है 802. These are all standards that are from IEEE. Similarly, you have some other. The last one is Gen EV Alliance. This is for automotive. So when we are in the FOSS area, we're talking about a FOSS ecosystem. We should be aware of these organizations and the work that they're doing. And a big kudos to OSFP, our own open source foundation in Pakistan, which I think is doing a great job, and we just need to support it and hopefully lead to a very prosperous Pakistan, inshallah. FOSS user organizations. So these are defined as organizations which have a need. They want to do something in their organization, but they don't. The enterprise or proprietary software available is not fulfilling that need, so they write their own. So usme aap dekhen, look at the names: Goldman Sachs, banking, JP Morgan. They're outsourcing these. LinkedIn is a leader in contributions. इनका leading सबसे बड़ा जो वो है जिन्होंने इन्होंने contribute किया है Kafka, a very very high speed enterprise class messaging system. फिर Facebook है, उनका Hydra, Presto बड़े well known है. Netflix का Genie, Simian Army, IBM, Google, AWS, Microsoft. अब it's interesting के 80s तक 90s तक Microsoft का था FUD, which was fear, uncertainty and doubt. That's what they used to think about when they thought about open source. और आज आप देखें कि जैसे फवाद ने भी कहा कि they have accepted कि it is a tide that cannot be stopped, or it's better कि हम open source को adopt करें or for a better world. You have Apple, Tencent from China, and Alibaba. You can see all the contributions that they have made. Amazing. So again, top open source companies. These are some I thought of. Like, there are many more. So let me say, WordPress. I think 60% of blogs jo hain, they are hosted on WordPress. You can start for free. Amazing. Apache Kafka, I mentioned it. LinkedIn ने इसको open source किया था, and then the team that was leading it, they left and they formed Confluent. ये भी billions of dollars की इसकी market cap हो चुकी है. Amazing company. Canonical है. Ubuntu Linux has certainly become the leading Linux distribution in the world. फिर Elasticsearch है, इसको Elk Stack भी कहते हैं. Amazing. फिर मैं इधर एक interesting चीज बताऊं कि K जो है for Kibana, ये अपना पाकिस्तानी है by the name of Rashid Khan, and it's an amazing visual tool that gives you that dashboard. फिर GitHub, it was mentioned earlier, that Twitter, Redis Labs, Red Hat, Adobe, Databricks, HashiCorp, these are all companies that have outsourced these and contributed to open source. Amazing products. So I just want to talk about EU Commission study. Jisme they mentioned that we must emphasize use and benefits, create a dedicated open source entity that fosters and measures strategy adoption, establish an open culture, collaborate with communities and the open source ecosystem, enhance and develop the technical infrastructure and services. And based on this, they have a strategy, a 3-year strategy leading up to 2023. Or इसमें 6 principles हैं. Okay, open source solutions will be preferred when equivalent in functionalities, total cost, and cybersecurity. Harness the working principles of open source, primarily innovation and co-creation, sharing of code, striving to be an active member of the diverse open source ecosystem, promoting open standards and specifications that are implemented and distributed in open source. So the idea of presenting the EU study is that the government of Pakistan can also, follow these and adopt them. I mean, again, these are not hidden. These are open source ideas, so let's adopt them and benefit. And how do they see open source strategy in action? You start with using at the infrastructure level, then over time you start using tools, you start producing tools, you start contributing, and finally the final stage is be able to transform that organization to an open source environment. Countries with successful FOSS ecosystem. So if you notice, I have Pakistan right on the top, and I'm saying we need awareness, we need commitment, and we need adoption. So awareness is there by virtue of OSFP and similar organizations जो ये काम कर रही हैं, but we need commitment from both the private and public sector, and we need adoption. About look at the list. There's Brazil. I'm pleasantly surprised to see that Canada जो है it mandates के गवर्नमेंट के अंदर open standards और open solutions को पहले तरजीह दी जाएगी, फिर देखा जाएगा कि अगर वो नहीं मैच कर रही और नहीं up to level आ रही, then they'll go towards proprietary. China, they're a heavy user, and they even have a domestic version of their own Linux. France, Germany, United Kingdom, India, Malaysia. I don't have a note here, but they've saved millions of dollars since adopting open source. South Africa, South Korea saves hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Look at USA. They're the biggest contributor, and interestingly, मैंने जितनी slides पीछे share की हैं, 90% of those companies are in US. They are US based, and they are US companies. And look at their contribution. ये code.gov है, ये government का portal है, उसमें 6,000 plus of open source projects चल रहे हैं. It's amazing. So the whole idea is that we can do this. So what are some of the FOSS initiatives? FOSS can help in reducing foreign exchange that we spend on getting these licensing costs. It can help in developing an in-country skill set, as most of the software is just available for download. No issues. Access to top quality tools. There's training and professional development opportunities. IT service industry can also benefit by selling their services online and getting there's an inflow of foreign exchange. So you can see the net effect is much higher. You're saving as well as increasing. So helps the economy, and you support the local industry like we were doing as Ping Systems. So it's easy to get started. There's easy access to information. Just download the application, start learning. There's a train the trainer concept. So key areas like automotive, big data, artificial intelligence. इन सबको ये सब उसके साइबर इसके डोमेन में आते हैं open source के. So let's train some people, and they can train hundreds of other people. Create a portal जहाँ there are so many resources that are available. People just don't know. Even with cloud providers, there are free accounts. With AWS, Azure, Google Computing, they're free. You just need to be able to have that information. There's a certification that we should do, and there's open courseware. Khan Academy, Coursera, they're doing amazing job, and it's all open source. That information is just available to learn and learn. So some points from my side on adoption of FOSS by government. It will help maintain sovereignty. So you minimize dependence on foreign technology. There's low cost of ownership. It's secure as code is open source. It will minimize or end software piracy. There's foreign exchange savings. Helps develop local expertise. Like when I was running Ping, all my team was all from the from NED, from Hamdard, all the local universities, and our guys are smart. The girls and boys, they're very smart, so we can make it work. It facilitates collaboration. There's clear ownership. There's transparency on government's work. It's easier to share standards and helps make government technology seamless. How can the government promote FOSS? So it can, at all levels, build infrastructure and capacity, encourage investment in open source technology by providing subsidies, tax exemption, financing low-cost loans, people who want to go in this area, establish IT parks and centers of excellence in major cities. Now, regarding IT parks, I'm not of the opinion to have 100-story high buildings, very high tech. No, मैं एक पर्सनल एग्जांपल बताऊं, MySQL की वो लेने के लिए डिस्ट्रीब्यूटरशिप, I went to Helsinki in the early 2000s, in fact 2001, and I was to meet this company called Polycon, जो उसके MySQL के authorized trainers थे, and I was expecting to meet them in a high-rise. Their office would be in a high-rise building. You will not believe it was in an IT park. IT park क्या था? It was these 50-foot containers, all hooked together. So once you stepped in, it was wall-to-wall carpeting, Sun Microsystems, उस जमाने के, cooling, heating, everything. So all we need, ये catalyst है. All we need is security. You need a high bandwidth internet, and people will work and they will produce. You don't need buildings. You need an area that has good internet, and infrastructure. So that's my idea of IT parks that can be sprinkled across the country, and centers of excellence where people can go and learn about open source. Collaborating with open source companies. So very interestingly, MariaDB, जो MySQL के बाद उन्हीं विडिनस जो है, जो MySQL का राइटर था, उसी ने MariaDB स्टार्ट की है. उनका ये प्रोग्राम है जिसमें they will give you assistance, collaboration, and the idea is कि वो उस यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर ecosystem बनाए. तो let's talk about NED. If they adopt MariaDB University, they will be churning out admins, developers in MariaDB in databases. So we should explore more programs like these and get in touch with them and make sure that they come to Pakistan. Establishing an advisory council to help local companies transition, increasing awareness in open source cloud technologies, as majority of cloud applications are migrating into cloud. Or introducing FOSS earlier on, like in school, college, and university levels, creating engineers, developers, IT support, sales, marketing, and business development resources, and helping establish these IEEE, ACM, and similar student and professional chapters across the country. So we all know that किसी भी country के prosperity, उसकी economy जो है वो किस चीज से अफोर्ड होती है, जो जिसे मिडिल क्लास या एंट्री लेवल जॉब्स भी कह सकते हैं. तो I strongly feel के although के promotion of FOSS and adoption of FOSS, creating that FOSS ecosystem will help increase the number of entry level jobs that will be made available across the country. तो फिर पाकिस्तान को एज IT हब प्रमोट करें. जो अवेलेबल मटेरियल है, मैं आपको एक अपना एक्सपीरियंस बताऊं कि if you look for something, you want to learn something, some technology, you will find 90% will be from India, and very, very few Pakistanis. So this needs to change in our favor. Identify those resources that are freely available. Bartering, volunteer hours for credits. This is maybe a new concept. So students at college level or university, they work towards some government, do some volunteering work, and they get credits to use at these ID parks or labs established by the government. Establishing low-cost, easily accessible computer labs using LTSP. So LTSP, Linux terminal server. If at Ping, I was selling these for $5,000 rupees each. It was a box which would just allow you to do web browsing. There were some use cases. So you can establish it. You just log in, and you have access to a whole world of the internet. Supporting training in cloud, AI development, and IT support areas. Fostering leadership and developing a critical mass of technologists who can compete for IT projects on Odesk, TopTal, Freelancer, etc. Some of the policies, so mandatory, preference, advisory, and there's also the R&D type. So this is for the government to adopt these. These are some references that I used, and thank you. You can send any questions to my email. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Asaf,
I hope I didn't go over time, Babar.
Yes, we have few questions for you. Important
Sure.
हैं, आप माशाल्लाह बहुत टेक्निकल हैं, तो वो जवाब आप दें. एक पहला सवाल ये है कि what challenge do we see in future in open source as every other big industry is open sourcing their tools? Does it also bring some negative impact somewhere?
See if you. So I would rather focus on the positive impact. So जैसे मैंने अपने presentation में list किया, let's talk about the positive. Let's get our workforce, जो हमारे young IT professionals हैं. मैंने जैसे बताया कि मैं जब पिंग चला रहा था तो I used to hire from the local universities. किसी से कम नहीं थे, माशाल्लाह बहुत brilliant. They just need the proper guidance. So let's focus on the positive part, which is adopt that ecosystem and just see how well we do.
बिल्कुल सही है, बिल्कुल सही है.
और जहां तक बात हुई, there are 3 FOSS models. आप स्टार्ट करें पहले वाले से सर्विस, फिर आप जाएं डिस्ट्रीब्यूटरशिप में, तीसरा लेवल है आप अपना आईपी क्रिएट करें, क्रिएट योर ओन. Okay, so this is a common question. So yes, so I'll give you a counter argument. Let's say there's this big proprietary company जिसके 100 developers हैं जो किसी project पे काम कर रहे हैं, and they ये निकल आते हैं जिनको day 0 या 0 day कहते हैं, कि जो hackers उनको वो करते हैं, hack करते हैं उन loop holes को. The difference is कि उन 100 लोगों को ने काम किया है, उनको पता है, और उनसे वो चीज मिस हुई है. क्योंकि सोर्स कोड ओपन है, इट इज इमीडिएटली 0 days बहुत कम होते हैं लिनक्स पे, बहुत रेयर होते हैं, क्योंकि जैसी एक 0 day वल्नरेबिलिटी का पता चलता है, उससे पहले 1 लाख से ज्यादा लोग उसको देख रहे होते हैं कोड को, और उसको उसी वक्त फिक्स कर देते हैं. So the results are in front. कि लिनक्स के आप 1 या 2 या 4 काउंट कर सकते हैं, और प्रोप्राइटरी सिस्टम्स के हजारों में.
जबरदस्त हो गया आसिफ भाई, थैंक यू वेरी मच.
और एक मैं बस इसके फेवर में कह दूं, ये जो पावर ऑफ, मुझे अभी याद आया, जब लिनक्स 2.4 कर्नल से मैं फंसा हुआ था, क्योंकि वो स्केल नहीं कर पाता था, उसका स्केड्यूलर जो था उसका कोई इशू था, तो इट वाज आउट इन द ओपन के भाई इसको हमें एंटरप्राइज पे लेके जाना है, नेक्स्ट स्टेप कैसे होगी. तो इगोर मोलनार एक था, आई थिंक हंगेरियन कोडर या हैकर, सॉरी कह सकते हैं, पॉजिटिव जो काम करते हैं. ही सबमिटेड स्केड्यूलर, और उसके साथ ही IBM का सबमिट हुआ था, एंड इगोर मोलनार्स code was accepted above a powerhouse like IBM. That's the power of open source. और आज वो आप देखेंगे उसने जो जंप लगाई है लिनक्स ने, अब अनस्टॉपेबल है.